Why does this feel like sabotage? We've been together for 5 years and we have 2 kids together. We met through work. We both met through school and work in EMS. He's a paramedic. I'm an EMT in school for paramedic. Here's my frustration. I've been a stay-home mom for 2 years. Since leaving the career I've missed it terribly, but it's hard scheduling together and we did it because of childcare, and I do not want to work together in the same service ever again. Here's a quick backstory. We were on opposite shifts, and kept quiet about our relationship, the marriage, in the beginning, because I didn't want drama and neither did he. After I became pregnant, we started to show more public affection, which wasn't a big deal. But my husband starting have some issues at the service where supervisors came to me to sort it out. I told them he's not my problem at work, because he's my husband at home, and it became an issue of whatever he did reflected negatively on me. He was not a bad paramedic by any means, honestly is one of the smarter ones, but goodness, he is truly too smart for his own good. I was moving up in rank and was promoted to EMT FTO, which meant I trained new EMTs for our service, and had more responsibilities. At first didn't think any of it, but he applied for a promotion and was denied. It started getting worse, his attitude towards co-workers and management, calling them stupid, that he knew more than them. I'll defend him to a point, some of them were not the smartest, but that doesn't mean they're stupid. He made a very bad mistake after we worked there for 2 years, and called out our boss for not fighting for us during COVID. Which I agreed with, but kept quiet. Only issue was he did it publicly in front of an entire shift and made derogatory remarks, which resulted in him being removed from the premises, and he was forced to resign. After our first child was born, I was on maternity leave and he was unemployed for a while. Because he couldn't get a job at another service, I knew why, but I tried to be supportive because I love him. This went on for several months, until I ended up leaving due to retaliation, uncomfortable feelings from coworkers, even though I wasn't a part of that, and didn't speak about it. It didn't matter because whatever he did was bad for me. My husband and I spoke about his behavior and new parenthood. And it became resolved, so I thought. He left the EMS field and took up electric work. He got a job at a power plant. This lasted for 7 months. When he was fired with several others, even though part of me thinks he quit, but besides the fact, he went back to EMS. After leaving 2 additional jobs in a 1-year period. I put my foot down that he stays with his current job unless he has another job lined up, but job jumping looks bad and he needs to suck it up for our family's welfare. We've had several arguments about money with our second child, and he asked if I'd be comfortable going back to work. I said sure, if it didn't conflict with childcare. So I started applying. I finally got an offer at a 911 agency that offers the same schedule as his current service. To now, I am now employed at an agency that he happened to be denied from. I asked if it bothered him, and he said no. But said they probably only wanted me because I'm an EMT and they can indoctrinate me to their ways, since I'm in paramedic school. I didn't care and told him whatever. He was super excited other this agency and was crushed when they didn't accept him. But I told him it's a job and extra money. Our shifts flip-flop, where there is always someone home with our 2 kids. And he took me for dinner to celebrate. He recently said he's unhappy at his current job that is outside of our region. He was blackballed from our region's agencies, and I told him to apply or reapply at another agency that offers the same schedule. He said no because they won't accept him. And he is thinking about doing a hospital job that will conflict with mine, that'll either require us paying $2,000 in childcare for our area, no family, or as always, I take a step back because he would make more money. Am I overreacting? I love him, and I don't want him unhappy. But at the same time, give me a break, he's done this to himself. He didn't have to go rage on our boss, or put himself in several positions that resulted in job loss. I voiced this, and his response was either I know, I'm sorry, or I'm not an excusser, I stand up for myself. He claimed he was the victim in every scenario, which is so different than the man I married. And he gets defensive when I call him out on his current attitude. Overall he's a good father, okay husband, but a lousy employee. He's great at what he does, but can't accept how things are done versus what he's used to or wants to do in terms of work. Also, my agency hosted a family night, and he refused to go because he didn't want to interact with any of them, and didn't like my supervisor who knows us from the first incident. Which ticked me off, but I said fine and took our kids with me. I feel like he's wanting to change jobs to put me in a predicament with work even though he asked me to get one, but I could be overreacting. Update 1. Clock is now ticking. I came home the morning after my shift, and he was fixing breakfast for our kids. He asked how my shift went, and I said it was fine. He made a small comment, I'm kinda mad they didn't want to hire me, What did I ever do to them? I brushed it off even though inside I knew it. I was really tired, and told him I was going to lay down for a few hours. I did my decompress routine, shower, skincare, bed. After I laid down, he came in and started talking about applying at other places. I told him sure, but that I need him to be conscious of my work schedule now or this isn't going to work for us or the kids. He started going off about how bad debt we are in, and that I have no idea how bad it is. I told him I do, but I don't bring it up 24/7. I'm stupidly optimistic to myself that we'll get through it, because we have 2 for the kids. I'll sell a kidney before I can't buy them milk. But I'm also constantly stressing about the power bill, groceries, credit cards, everything. It's always in the back of my head. He said that I didn't because I don't get updates, text/email, about all the missing bills etc. We're only late on cell phone bills this past month. I told them I do, and I do my part to pay them too. He shut up, and got tight-lipped and said sure. His comment after was every time I say I can't pay for something. Like something you want. You say okay, and move on. You don't care. I got more fed up, and I feel bad for getting mean, but I said what was I supposed to do? Wallow and complain like you do. This isn't all our fault. Some of this is just life. I say okay, because that's all I have to say about it. He goes on to mention that I always talk about things I want for myself, for the kids, for the house. And I say yes, because I want it. But I also understand we can't have it right now, or we may never have it. And I'm okay with that. My husband goes to say he hates being poor. And I tell him so do other poor people. We're doing fairly okay for poor. For clarification, I grew up on the poverty line. I know about hunger, no water, and not having shoes that fit. But I also know I never want my kids to feel that way either. I tell him what he's doing is not fair to me or the kids. As I only accepted the current job because of him. And I'm not quitting, since he asked if I could go back to work. He said that's fine, but he's need to go where the money is so we can get out of debt. I tell him that job hopping isn't the answer to this, and he needs to give it time. And that going to a different schedule is only going to stress him. Myself and our marriage. He asked how. And I went off. I brought up the last 3 years of his attitudes and mistakes. I basically ripped him a new one. I told him if he leaves this job that's it for me. And he needs to start taking care of himself, and get therapy before it's too late. He asked too late for what? And I blurted out before it's too late and you lose me. He had nothing to say, and only stared at me before getting up and leaving the room. I went to check on the kids, and he was sitting on the couch. I went to sleep and my kids woke me up a few hours later. My husband is currently angry at me, but it's whatever at this point. We've made short talk about the kids and that's it. I've tried apologizing for being mean, but told him I was only communicating how I felt. He humphed me. And said I don't like ultimatums. So I left him alone. I don't want to leave him. I don't want to break our marriage. But I refuse to pull all the strings in my life to suit him. He's not being smart about things and finances. Money isn't the only answer. Sometimes we have to wait and work through the rough parts and pay a little at a time. But I don't think he understands that. If he quits this job, he has 6 months to get his stuff together and prove it was worth it, if not less. I'm tired of him constantly going from job to job because of little things he doesn't like. He's creating a bigger and worse name for himself. And I want him to go to therapy to figure out what's going and to get better for himself and us. I don't know what's it going to take. But I need to be financially able to do it first. I have no family, and currently trying to keep my home life away from work, but you never know. Update 2. I went through my blocked list on all social media and phone, and Sam is on there along with some others sprinkled through I was unaware of and now curious as to why, in the last week and a half, a series of events have occurred. My husband and I had a sat-down talk beginning of last week, and I was under the impression that we were making an effort to move forward until one comment broke it all down. After reading, I can see how I could be at fault. However, I've never made my husband question the love I have for him. At least I do not think I had. In the last week this has happened. 1. My husband and I had agreed on marriage and therapy consultation together and separately. 2. I've reached a compromise that my husband can apply to another 24/72 agency to leave the stress of a high call volume, and to ease the burnout. 3. My husband had trash-talked me to several of our ex-friends, prior to the birth of our first child 3 years ago while I was pregnant after we were married. I was unaware of this, and now it hurts just as much that people I called friends and some considered family hid this from me. 4. My husband talked to someone as me in hopes or fears that I was cheating on him, to now, I was working a 12-hour overtime shift, and had picked up with someone who used to be a friend with my husband and I. We were always civil, never super buddy. She got on the subject of how my husband is doing, and I gave a generic he's good answer. Work is work. My husband called me during this shift, and was talking about a funny pose the toddler was sleeping in. We exchanged goodbyes, and he told me he loved me and our family. He's been making a lot of apologies lately since our talk. My co-worker overheard some of the conversation, and made a comment that, wow, and to think he didn't want kids. This threw me in a tailspin, and I asked her what she was talking about. She started stumbling over her words and said that all men are like that though. Especially in the beginning. I asked her where she heard that. And I'm not sure if she was enjoying the drama, but said that my husband told her and everyone else that asked about me and the baby. Things started making a lot more sense. She tried to tell me more, but I refused to listen and told her that we needed to get back to work. At the end of the shift, I was heading out when she grabbed me. She apologized and brought up someone from my history who we'll name Sam. She told me that my husband had talked to Sam, and was upset at me for hiding things from him in our relationship, and I was cheating, leading to him having doubts about our kids. I was confused because I never cheated on my husband. And I don't recall Sam and my husband ever talking unless I was there. Edit, they never talked in depth about personal issues to my knowledge. Also, Sam has been AWAL the last 3 years. Coworker said that he talked to him maybe a year ago, and had sent her the screenshots. Again. The amount of bullshittery coming out of the woodworks. I'm furious. She went back to their conversation, and pulled up one of them and showed me. The conversation was on my phone and the timestamp with May 11, 2022. I was asking Sam questions, and then after Sam said of course to a certain question of, "Do you ever miss me?" Then, I told him that I can't talk to him anymore because my husband would find out and be angry. Which Sam was sending my name and asking what's going on. She showed me another screenshot of a saved Snapchat convo between Sam and I, and he had replied to a story I posted, heavily pregnant in my baby shower dress, and it was basically him apologizing for missing it, and said that I looked great and said I was going to be a great mother. Sam was deployed in the Marine Corps at the time. I told my coworker thanks but to leave it alone, and that this was a matter between my husband and I. I drove home in tears. For my Grey's Anatomy fans, Sam was my Christina. We both were friends and both had shared a weird connection. We both always called each other when we were upset and relied on each other. We had this weird feeling when the other needed us, and always showed up. We were best friends. I truly platonically loved him. I once thought more, but it was one of those what ifs. Regardless, neither of us expressed or acted on romantic feelings. And I never spoke to anyone about him in a romantic way. He was a great friend. 3 years ago, around the time my first child was born, he stopped responding to my texts. I didn't know why, and was crushed. I lost my best friend. So I left it alone and moved on even though I missed him a lot. I arrived home and my husband was sitting on the couch angry. He asked what I talked to a coworker about before I even sat my bag down. I ignored him and went to kiss our children high. He followed me through the house asking what I said to so. The conversation was a lot of yelling at each other about past grievances and mistakes. I asked him about the conversation with Sam on my phone, that I have record of, and my husband admitted to reaching out to Sam on a hunch, and that Sam proved it. I asked how. And my husband admitted that Sam called my husband the night that I had given birth to our first child, and gave him a speech about how good of a person I was, and that I was special so to treat me right. He left out some context, but I don't want to know. My husband told me he felt threatened by Sam, and told him to leave us alone. I'm sure he said uglier things to him. I asked him why he never spoke to me about it, and he went on about something how Sam and I had a secret language, and that he felt like a third wheel around us. My husband admitted to talking badly about me to our friends out of jealousy, including coworker who showed me SS, and that when he spoke to one of my friends about proposing to me, they told him to ask Sam. And that when he did, Sam got protective and defensive, sending other red flags to my husband. Which Sam to me never had a problem with my husband besides calling him a doofus whenever we had an argument over petty stuff. But he always rooted for my husband, and gave me pep talks in the beginning of my relationship that my husband asked me if I slept with him, which no, never happened. The closest thing you could consider was us passed out on our friend's bedroom floor with like 10 other people. He asked if we kissed. And no. Husband called Sam a simp for me, and I asked how. And he went on a spill about how Sam would always bring me food when we were hanging out, or if he visited the apartment husband's and I's old place. Which he brought food for husband too. He always included my husband, and they did things separately together too, like watching the Star Wars trilogy together without me, and they also played video games together. He said Sam was constantly always around me, and was my lapdog. And that at our wedding, Sam pulled him aside for a talk about, "You better make her happy." Which I find hard to believe, and think my husband is making up things now to play the victim card. I asked him why he thought it was okay to talk about me to people behind my back. He deflected that I was in love with Sam, and chose him out of pity. Which I retorted that no. Because I met him, fell in love, dated, got married to him. And even gave him children, and that's not something I do lightly. It's always been him. He got angry, and said no. It's been Sam. He continued on about Sam this, Sam that. And bringing up every interaction, the three of us. I felt so numb and exhausted in the moment, that I sat down on our bed and told him that I don't want to do this anymore. That everything he said in the last week has been bullshit, and I'm not listening to it anymore. Because it's all been about him, and not once has he asked about how I felt, what I need, or etc. I had to come to him with our talk, and even then he was reluctant. I told him that he's broken every ounce of trust one had in him and us, and that I could comprehend him talking to Sam or having worries, but he failed to communicate those to me or to trust me, and trash-talking us and our children, before they were born, is not something I would tolerate. I told him that he's effed me over at last job, and now my current possibly because of coworker so-and-so could potentially spread the things he said to her around, causing more unnecessary drama that I won't deal with. I called him a child. I told him I was angry for what he's done, and I've lost people I cared about for and because of him leaving me alone. Which is my fault. But that I don't think we can come back from this. I told him that I've been fighting for our marriage the entire time, and he's never even tried. I told him about the first time I saw him, and how it clicked for me, but that now I feel nothing. He was surprised and asked what I meant. I told him that I never care about the way he looked, or that he had issues in his past. I tried supporting him through each struggle and he couldn't do the same for me. I took off my wedding band and laid it on his nightstand. I left him in the bedroom, and went to our children's rooms. He left, and a few hours later our friend Corey texted me on FB that husband was there upset. He apologized for husband's behavior, not sure why, and he'll send him home soon. Corey asked what happened. But I ignored him because husband is either going to tell the truth, say nothing, or lie through his teeth. Corey had been his buddy first, so I'm not counting on him to remain neutral. I took my children out to the playground this morning and got pizza/ice cream for lunch. He's still not home, and I'm contemplating drawing up a proposal draft for our separation and will be contacting a lawyer Monday morning. I could stomach living as roommates for a short period if it was something he was comfortable with, that way we didn't have to split up with the children. He never admitted to why he texted Sam on my phone, or deleting the messages. My marriage is officially over, and we haven't even gone to therapy yet.